Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. Can you guys believe that we are almost done with Q3? Quarter three, people, 3/4 of the way through the year. This year, I feel like an old lady when I say things like this, but this year has literally flown by. I feel like the older I get, the faster time goes. It's just completely insane. So I wanted to give you guys a quick update on our Growth Factor program before we jump into the interview today, which is a super good one. I've got Jaclyn Luongo. If you don't know who she is, once you hear her bio, you'll be like, holy smokes, I've got to listen to that call. I've got to follow Jaclyn. She is amazing. So, but back to Growth Factor, throughout the year, we get a lot of emails, a lot of DMs from estheticians wanting to know how they can work with me one-on-one. So I do work with people one-on-one. I typically work with them throughout the period of a year, and I like to do that on calendar years. So in 2020, the only way to have a one-on-one call with me is through our Growth Factor program. So you guys may have heard the podcast that we did on the Growth Factor framework. It's episode 90. We'll be sure to link that up in the show notes if you haven't heard it. But what we did is really took that framework and created a high level, it's part group coaching, immense support, part done for you resources. We're looking for highly driven estheticians and spa owners with a goal to get into the multiple 6 figures or 7 figures. So I'm going to be doing some Facebook Lives with all of the details over in the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. I'm going to do that Thursday, September 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're interested in learning more about the program, be sure to check that out. So we're capping it at 25 spots because this program is so high touch. We're really, really focused on getting every single one of our Growth Factor students into the high multiple 6 figures or 7 figures. And so because it is high touch, we're keeping it capped at that 25. And we actually gave our Spa Retail Rockstar students first dibs. So we are close to halfway full already. So if this is something that you're interested in, be sure to check out that Facebook Live. Again, that's going to be on September 26th in the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group at 1 p.m. Now, just a heads up, this program is for spa owners and estheticians who are already at a minimum of $100K per year in sales revenue, and there is an application process. So, okay, guys, let's go ahead and get into our interview today with the lovely Jaclyn Luongo. So my friend Jaclyn, she graduated from the Katherine Heinz Institute in 1999. That's an awesome school in Massachusetts. She's a licensed esthetician, makeup artist, aesthetic injector, beauty blogger, and regional sales manager for Jan Marini Research with over 19 years experience. And now actually she's had over 20 years in the industry. She's worked with some of New England's top resorts and day spas. She's trained in Europe and in Los Angeles with star makeup artist and skin specialist. She's appeared on The Industry as a guest beauty expert. She's worked with contestants from the Miss Teen USA pageant. She was a featured guest freelance makeup artist for Chanel for over 11 years. And she does a lot of good work to give back for our industry. She's been a volunteer for the Look Good, Feel Better program, which is the American Cancer Society, since 2002. She's been a guest speaker for the Dress for Success organization. And in 2012, 2017, and 2018, she was nominated to be on the board of directors for iSpa. And she's been a program advisory board member at Katherine Heinz since 2009. Now, Jaclyn continues to contribute as a task force volunteer for iSpa. And in January of 2017, she accepted a position on the board of directors for the Melanoma Education Foundation. So that is the bio of someone who truly gives back, who's truly passionate about our industry. Today, Jaclyn's working as the Academy Director at the American Academy of Health and Beauty. And she and I had just such an interesting conversation. And like her career, it really centered around education, passion, passion for the industry, and how you can give back. So she has so much knowledge, so much insight. She's recently written a book that's going to be an amazing, amazing resource, again, for our industry. So we've got that linked up in the show notes as well. But I will stop talking. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and play that interview with Jaclyn. All right, Jaclyn, I'm so excited to welcome you to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really happy to be here.
So we met several years ago, but we recently reconnected at the NASN Pro event, which, shout out to Denise for doing so much good in this industry. But I remember you were emceeing the event. And here you were so confident, such a great speaker. And I was like, gosh, she's really involved in this industry. I've got to reach out to her.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many layers of opportunity in this industry that I think is so untapped, or maybe even not even understood completely, all of the layers of just from makeup to the buckets of categories that this industry really has outside of the treatment room. And, I sort of can help to navigate someone who's a little lost in the industry, to help them guide and not put all of your eggs in one basket at first, and figure out what really suits you and what makes you tick and what fills your tank, really. And I've definitely found that in the 20 years of the aesthetic world that I've been in. This is all I know, and I love it.
So I know we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but you've had so many really interesting career paths within the industry. So you've been on the board of directors for several companies. You've worked as a makeup artist. You've worked in, as a director for an aesthetic school.
Yes.
And really, you were saying really the core to everything. You've been a vendor, like you've done all kinds of stuff, but the core is really education.
Absolutely, it is.
And that's something I really want to have a conversation about a little bit more. I think that you have a very unique perspective. And for one, there's one conversation that I want to have, and I think that you have 2 points of view about it. So business building in the schools, right?
Absolutely.
Hot topic.
There's a need for it.
Yep. So that's something that needs to change, but I think it's much more of a complex issue than we give it credit for, of just like, why don't people teach business building in schools? And, when you look at Connecticut that doesn't have an aesthetics license, and then you look at, Florida that is like 300, I don't know what their hours are, but there's different hours all over the state. So it really is a challenge when you think about what we need to know as estheticians.
Absolutely. Well, so there's 2 parts to that. And I've had the experience from the direct school perspective and understanding that students are sometimes coming to school with a specific goal. And that goal is to open up their own business. They want to be a spa. They want to have a studio for whatever specific modalities that they want to offer. And so if they're coming to school for that, yet the schools are not offering a business building program, or that we don't dig deep into that, then you get out there and say, now what? So that's something that even if it is a school that's being offered, that's offering maybe 300 hours or so, there's still always professional development. And that's something for us as spa professionals with years of experience and skill set that I really think we can pay forward to the industry and offer professional development courses for these graduates, for alumni, even if it's 10 years later and now this esthetician wants to get into business. It's really important to be able to have those resources. And obviously there are associations like Denise, like NASN Pro, to be able to offer some of that support system when it comes to connecting them with the right vendors and education and software systems and all of the things that go along with building a business. But the other part is really getting to know, what do you want to offer? What is your niche? And sometimes that starts in school. It's almost like, what color is your parachute? And getting as deep as you can when it comes to the makeup part, or micropigmentation, or spa, or medical, or holistic. So there's so many different ways, and just to kind of navigate through what this industry has to offer, because the layers are really, really deep for sure.
It's funny. When I went to school in Hawaii, I went to a school called Spa Luna. It was in Haiku. And Hawaii is it's such a fun place to go to aesthetics school. It was a really awesome school. Our teacher was, it was just a really overall great experience. And I think we had about 12 girls in our class, and they all were like, "You're going into medical." And I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, "That's no way. I'm not doing medical." I was at that time, I was wanted to be a solo esthetician. I wanted to have my own business, And so I ended up going solo immediately out of school. And then I moved and went to a resort spa, a big fancy pants resort. It was Spa Grande at the Grand Wailea, which is just unbelievable. And then the year after that, I went into medical, and I was like, these are my people. I'm like, this is my place. But it was one of those things that it's so interesting that my classmates could see it from the beginning.
Yeah.
But for me, I needed to go through that business. And I like to tell that to estheticians that you don't have to have it figured out right now.
Right.
There's so much in this industry that you can do. And we're seeing even more. It's now there's lash artists. When I first started, nobody was doing lashes.
No, I know.
It's spray tans and microblading, and there's all the anti-aging facials, and there's all these cool devices that you can use now. So, go out, explore, and find what you love. And
absolutely
go into that.
It's true. And, it's always evolving, as we know. It's changed over the years since we've become estheticians, and it will always be changing because there's just so much innovation. There's so much when it comes to product and technology, to the devices, like you say. It's just always going to be evolving into more and, newer technologies out there. So again, that brings you back to you never stop learning. So going back to relearn, whether it's through going to a trade show or education or networking events, I think that's just so imperative to stay current, to stay in the loop. And it's such a small industry that, there are a lot of different resources throughout the country that, all of us can tap into. It's just knowing and being able to ask for them. And it's funny that you say that about when you started school. My first facial, I was 11 years old.
Oh my God.
My aunt was the director of the evening clinic at Katherine Hines Institute, where I did end up attending school. So I've been exposed to it since I was a little girl. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. I remember my father telling me, no, you need to go to college, you need to do this, which I did do that. But I went to aesthetic school first. And I said, this is not something that I will ever regret. I know that I belong here. And so following your passion is really important. And I encourage my 12-year-old daughter to do the same on her path and her passions. And so I went to school thinking, at that point, they had just introduced the medical aesthetics program, which in Massachusetts was 1,200 hours. And I thought that I was going to go into medical. And I went through the entire program and realized how much I loved makeup. I did not like waxing.
Oh,
not my
God bless all of the waxers out there. I am a hot mess when it comes to waxing. Give me a laser any day. I will laser anything. But
absolutely,
absolutely disaster.
And again, that's a niche. So what you're good at, and you don't know until you get into school. And that's exactly what I say to the students on their first day here at the American Academy, because I say, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Come in as a very open-minded esthetician, because you never know where you're going to where it's going to click and where you're going to fall into. And so the makeup part led me into training and led me into the Italian skincare company that I ended up working with and going more sales than I was in the treatment room. Although I worked at Belisante as well.
Did you really?
I did, yes.
Oh, I love Belisante.
The common denominator for between us, for sure. It was 19.
I thought it was Anne. I thought it was
So Belisante, 1999, I worked under Larissa. I was doing 2 facials at the same time. I did that whole thing. It helped me with time management. A lot of my sales skills were learned in that kind of environment because it was such a fast-paced environment. And I was young at the time. I had to be there at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday. So it was commitment and dedication to the industry.
I love that place. Like what Tiffany and have created, there's so many awesome people that work there, but I've shared this story before, but my husband's active duty military, which is why we left. And, if we thought we were going to be there an additional 2 years and we had 5 weeks notice that we're moving. And I was like devastated because for me, when I was there, it was like I was in a management role, but I was also seeing patients and it was like, there were so many good pieces about it. And I love the people I was working with. And I remember literally shaking when I had to go in and tell Sarah that I was giving my notice. And I was just like so shocked from everything. But this is like the common theme in my life. And I love this is like, don't make it an obstacle, make it an opportunity. And that's when I chose to start my business.
Yeah.
Because I said, I'm not going to be on this constant cycle of starting over. And now 5 years later, here I am, happier than ever, impacting people in a whole different way. So always eternally grateful to Belisante. And, I learned so much from them. But it was, just a part of my path. But
and for me, it was same thing. It was a great foundation. And, you're really great proof that although I'm very New England based, you have been able to travel with your aesthetic skills and background and license anywhere you want in the country. Yes. So, that's just great proof that this can be taken no matter what. And, even though I went to college after, it's something that I'll always have this license. I'll always have this trade. And sometimes post-secondary schools are looked upon as not serious. And so I want to get that word out more and more. And I do feel like the culture is shifting a little bit, especially as, college debt becomes an issue in the country.
You know what? That's a huge thing. And I share a very similar thought process about my daughter. My daughter's 2. And, I don't care if she goes to college. Right. If she goes to college, that's great. If she doesn't want to go, that's great too. As long as she's following her path. And, like my brother never went to college and my brother runs an incredibly successful business. And, there's a lot of people that just learn in different ways and who knows if what she's going to do can be, but I hate that. This is one of the things that just absolutely drives me nuts is the stigma that's associated with going to beauty school.
Absolutely.
And you're not smart enough. You're not whatever. There's all these things. Yeah. Or when are you going to get a real job?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, this career, if you compare it to so many different industries, you have to be a very complex, intelligent individual to run a successful spa because there's emotional intelligence, there's business skills, there's technical skills, there's science. I mean, there's so many skill sets that you need to know that is unlike anything else.
Absolutely. And that is something that I see firsthand now as the director at the school because I have a lot of millennials that come in. They're sometimes straight out of high school. Sometimes they come with a parent, and I start to get into my path and my story and how I got here. And I've traveled all over Europe. I've been to 42 of the 50 states when I traveled for a vendor and I was a trainer. So it's what you want to make of it as an industry. And the skill sets that we have, or the passion if someone has for the beauty industry, it can be a very serious career path and a very lucrative career path for economic independence, which is the point of why most, women or men come to school. Then I have the other part where women in their 40s, they come in, maybe sometimes even older. I'm divorced. This is what I always wanted to do. My kids are off. I'm finally doing what I want to do. And that's what gets me the most excited, because I say, great, this is an awesome industry to do that. It's the 6th fastest growing industry in the country. You're in the right place.
More mature women always kill it. They do so well.
Absolutely.
And that's their biggest insecurity is like, I started late, or I'm old. And my response is, Martha Stewart started her business when she was 54. And the planet knows who Martha Stewart is. So you are not too late. You are never too old. Like,
absolutely,
doing what you're doing. Yep. And I think it's almost a benefit. I feel like the older I get, I'm not old, I'm 38, but when I was in medical aesthetics and I was 23, there was still some people like, well, you're 23. You don't have to, you're too young. You don't know. You don't know. You don't need Botox, like all of that. And then when you become more mature, you're like, well, I look this way because I used good quality skincare, or I did treatments. I knew what to do. You know what I mean? Seriously in a different way. So
I agree. And I think that there is that relatable, as we get a little bit deeper into the industry and actually are sometimes proof and good cases of success with good skincare and treatment. But I think I like that student even more, because they're here, they're finally ready, they're, to do what they love. Because for so many years, some of these women specifically that come in here, we take them right under our wing and they get integrated into the classroom. And it's really a great synergy, because sometimes we'll have some millennials and then we'll have some of those women that are, really ready to stand on their own, be really strong. And this industry can certainly provide that for them, no matter what age group, whether, they're straight out of high school or, ready for their second career, or finally to make some choices for themselves.
With all your experience and travel and in this industry, what do you think? I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the greatest challenge that the industry is facing? And what makes you the most proud of this industry?
Okay. So we'll start with challenges and we'll end with the positive. The challenges, I would say, and I know that you definitely echo this because we've spoken about it, is the selling portion of working in the treatment room, working in retail, and serious skincare. And, how do we, and it does start within their education, or the esthetician coming back for that education, how do we sell? How do we get those clients? 50% of the success is what they're using at home, and that they're not purchasing it from, a store that doesn't understand what treatments that they've had and what ingredients really that they need. And, how do we really continue to prove our worth to our clients that this is what we recommend. This is what we're consulting you to use to get the best results. We're setting you up for success and the results that you want. We're addressing your concerns. So I feel like that pain point has always been there. And I've felt it on, the school end. I felt it when I was a vendor, because I would hear it from the spa owners, the directors, the managers. Why are we selling more? Why is this ratio not higher from service to retail ratio? So that's what I see the challenge is. And, how do we shift that culture and that work ethic to truly, especially when we're up against so much competition for online retail and just that savvy customer out there, is more at selling through education. Again, it spins back to education. And I wrote a book that's launching October 22nd, and it's about that. It's about selling in the beauty industry.
Oh, cool.
And
we'll include that in our show notes.
Absolutely. And so I just see that there's that gap, where are the gaps in the industry? And a lot of it really has to do with retailing, with selling. And
that's what I built my whole business around.
I know. We know there's a gap. That's why you have that success that you've had, because there's a demand for it. And it's sometimes the owner doesn't even know how to articulate that, or the esthetician doesn't recognize that about themselves.
So one thing for the past 5 years that I've been really focusing on retail sales and spas, because I first saw it as, I've worked with the skincare companies. I've worked with lots of different spas. I've worked with solo estheticians. I love selling through education. I think when you can, step one is like giving them a systematic approach. There's that layer, but the deeper layer that is much harder to address is confidence and mindset. So a lot of people, you can give them the exact system. Here's what you say. Here's your script. Here's how you set the products down. But coming back to the confidence of who am I to make the recommendation, or I would never spend $500 on a skincare regimen. Why should I recommend that to other people? So it's like this whole mindset kind of thing that's a much deeper issue that I think relates back to, well, you're just going to beauty school.
Yes.
You're just going, you know what I mean? So for me, I think it's like step one is to attack it with just selling through education. Here's the strategies. But on a bigger scale, which should start at the schools, I think, is really like letting each of these women know, and men, but we're primarily women, know that they have something unique and special to offer. And
absolutely.
That they are, their knowledge has value.
Absolutely.
That's a big piece of it for me.
And when I have a class in front of me and they're a newer group, really starting to have them feel it in their heart. Why are you here? What is your why? And so your why is you want to be part of this industry. And so how do we teach the next generation of esthetician that's right in front of us to really believe in this industry, to believe in what they're doing for, skin, for age management, for just in general, for women out there, for men out there, to help with skin and to help kind of move that needle. And so it does start with that next generation of esthetician that's coming through our doors in school, and believing in themselves and knowing that even though somebody is spending XYZ on skincare or on a treatment, that's their investment into themselves, just like the student invested their time and their money to come to school.
Absolutely.
So it's
back to the question, what is the most positive thing you think about our industry?
The most positive, or what I would say I'm most proud of, is being able to have that impact. So when I'm asked to be on the board of Melanoma Education Foundation, the NASN Pro, the board of directors for, schools, I get to give back. I get to have input and have a little bit of a legacy as we go. And just even being connected to the International Spa Association and being published in that way, it's people are going to read it, and eventually it's going to click. And we are going to have an impact on this industry to be taken more seriously as the years go, because I've seen it being taken more seriously over the past 10 years. Even before we started this conversation, we've talked about how it's grown and how it is becoming a serious career path. And that's what I want to see. That's the legacy that I want to leave behind. And what better way to do that than to be part of whatever association and board I can do to be able to pay it forward.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing great work.
Thank you. I love it. For sure.
For other, you talked about paying it forward. What can just solo estheticians, spa owners, what can people do in our industry to help. You know, maybe they don't have time to be on the board of directors, or maybe they don't have the knowledge or expertise at this point in their career. But how can what advice do you give for those who want to help and want to give back, but maybe just don't know how?
So, you know, since we're talking on a national level, connecting with the school that you went to and revisiting, going back there and saying, you know, what can I share my story? Can I be a guest speaker at, you know, this aesthetic school or any sort of local networking events that can happen, to share your story, to share the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, you know, what you learned from it, what were some of your pain points, what were some of your wins, share them, be open. Some schools offer sort of round tables on a quarterly basis or networking events. Share. We're all here. There's enough business for all of us. We all have a unique perspective and skill set and niche. So don't be afraid to give back, because that's what's going to help the industry grow further. We don't have industry secrets, because that's one thing that I can't grasp that anybody would want to hold in their secrets, because we all want to be stronger as a whole in the industry.
Right. And it's all boats.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny because I have a younger sister. She went to aesthetic school as well, and she went a completely different path than I did, and my aunt. My aunt went very holistic. She was the first in the family to become an esthetician back in the 80s. And yes, when people didn't even know what that was. Sometimes I still am up against not knowing what an esthetician is, and I have to explain that still, and how to spell it. So my sister went more of the Nordstrom sort of retail route. And with that, you know, it's a little different than the spa industry, but I'll say to her, you know, what foundation are you using? And she'll say, oh, it's just a combination of a few things. And I said, no, I want to know every single product that you're using, because I want to recreate it. And so that's sort of the difference between setting up that legacy and paying it forward to share, because the more knowledge we all have, the better. So I had to kind of teach her through that, because that's just going to make everybody's life in this industry better, and just the beauty industry to be more well known. The more education we put out there, the more even the consumer is going to be savvy and know what's good.
That's amazing. So I hope all of you listening, you, the solo esthetician, the spa owner, you know, go to your school, go to a networking group, be open. I love the message that there is enough business for everyone. And you guys will see, like, I have so many people on my podcast that would be considered competitors, but it's, you know, for me, there's no competition, because I am my unique person and they are their unique person. So there is so much that we can give to support this industry, to grow this industry, to help the estheticians that are just coming in to not make the same mistakes we did, you know, and that's so important. A rising tide floats all boats.
Absolutely.
So, if you guys want to keep this conversation going, please head over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. We've got all the links to connect with Jaclyn below this video, the link to her book. Be sure to check that out in October. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.